In this episode, how to find the inverse of a function. Coming up, back into action. Hey guys, how to find the inverse of a function. First of all, what is the inverse? Inverse function basically undoes your function. That simply means the inverse function maps each output back to its input. In other words, if your function gives you output given the input, the inverse function gives you input given the output. So the kind of inverse operations of each other. Alright, let's find the inverse for that function f of x equals 5x minus 3. There are 4 steps to keep in mind, 4 steps to follow. The first step, you need to make your equation as y. So you just simply put y equals 5x minus 3. If you are already given y equals the equation in terms of x, you could simply skip over the first step. Now, moving on. The second step, you want to solve your equation for x. So you are given y equals 5x minus 3. So you want to solve it for x. In other words, you want to isolate x. So you need to get your equation in the form of x equals something. So just express your x, make x as a subject of the formula. So in order to achieve this, so you want to add 3 to both sides, since we have this negative 3 next to 5x. So you would be left with y plus 3 equals just 5x. So since this negative 3 and 3, they go away, they disappeared. And you're aiming for x. So all you need to do is just divide by 5 both sides of your equation, since what you do to one side, you have to do to other side. You don't want to change the overall value of the equation, keep it balanced. And since these 5 cancel each other out, you would be left with, so I will just write it in the inverse order, x equals y plus 3 over 5. And the second step is completed. So we get our x in terms of y. So the next step, you want to replace your x with f minus 1 of y equals y plus 3 over 5. Alright. And the last step, finally, you just simply switch x and y. So instead of y, I'm going to write x. Everywhere y appears in my equation. So I'm going to replace here with x. And I'm going to replace this y with x. So we're left with f negative 1 as a superscript of x equals x plus 3 over 5. This is your inverse function for that one. Inverse function, when does it exist? It exists only if you are given a one-to-one function. That simply means your function has to pass the horizontal test. What does it mean? If you have a graph of your function, let's say you have something like this. This is your f of x. And each horizontal line passes through your graph at one point. So any horizontal lines hits the graph of your function at one point. So that means your function is one-to-one function. And for this function, there is the inverse of the function. So this is horizontal line test. Now, if your function fails horizontal line test, for instance, the graph of that function, it could be something like this. This is your f of x. And any horizontal line that hits your graph intersects the curve more than one point. So it crosses the graph at one point and more. So for instance, in this case, we have one point of intersection, the second, the third. So it could be more. So if it's more than one, if it's two and more, so that means your function fails horizontal line test. And for this type of function, there are no inverse function. For instance, if you are given y equals x squared, this is not one-to-one function. If you take a look at visual display of the graph of this function, it would look like something like the graph is parabola, as we know from elementary school. So it looks like this. And if you take a horizontal line test and if you draw a straight line, so this line passes through your parabola at 2 points. So your function x squared fails the horizontal line test. For that function, there is no inverse function. It does not exist. So there is no inverse function for that one. If you look at the graph, that simply also means if you take two different values of x, let's say you take -2, and if you take 2, for these two different values of x, you would have one corresponding y value, which is 4, since -2 squared gives you 4 and 2 squared gives you 4. So for any two different distinct values of x, if you compute the same value of y, so that means your function is not one-to-one function. So you could actually test it by just finding two distinct values of x and finding the same value of y, the same output or image that corresponds to these different values of x. I hope it helps you. Train your brain, and thanks for watching. I know everyone hates maths, but if you like my video, please hit like, share with your friends, leave the comment down below, and make sure to subscribe so you will not miss my new videos.